We'll have Cole Cubelic there he is in just a second with the SEC Network along his own podcast that he does as well, The Cube Show, and he does sideline work with the United Football League. I saw that, Cole. I think it was the quarterback that put on a display last weekend that you were interviewing. How much fun have you enjoyed doing that during what is otherwise an off season?
It's a blast, specifically because of the access that we have. We are able to talk to guys on the sideline. We can listen in on the coaches' calls into the game. We can also listen in to some of the players that are mic'd up. The access is incredible. So that's the big thing that just makes it enjoyable. It's a totally different process for me. It's not as much investigative or during the week trying to find out different stories about guys. It's more reactionary to what's happening in the game, asking the hows and whys, getting guys to explain it. It's a lot of fun. And we still talk football too. I mean, there's still a lot of the technical aspect of why things work or don't work. So it's not fun being away from the family for another 8 or 10 weeks, but it is pretty cool.
Have you met The Rock yet?
I met him 2 years ago, the first year that the XFL came back. He was at our first game, got to meet him there. Really nice guy. Talked for a little bit. But we have not been at the same game since.
Cole, when you look at, I was gonna, when I saw we were gonna have you on the show today, I'm very curious your thoughts on Hugh Freeze's refresh of the Auburn roster, which is not as like top down as you would think, but quarterback, obviously getting Jackson Arnold in is a big deal, even though at Oklahoma the results were mixed for a lot of different reasons, but adding to the wide receiver room like he has, is this I don't want to say this is the go for broke year, but as an alum, you know that the Auburn boosters are not the bastion of patience that maybe some others are. Is this a go for broke year, and is he doing it right as far as building that roster?
I would like to know the boosters that are extremely patient in college football. I don't think those really exist anywhere, but there is some patience running thin with Auburn fans and maybe a little bit of the administration, just because I think there's been a lot of resources that have been put into the last two teams last year, this year. But I love some of the things that they've done. I don't think a lot of people around college football that didn't watch the ACC or Georgia Tech know how good Eric Singleton is. I mean, he's a killer. You can line him up in the backfield. You can give him a push pass, end around, throw him a screen. He can take the top off, go catch a deep ball. He is dynamic. You put him with Malcolm Simmons, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, that freshman class of receivers last year, really have a chance to do something big. I love the offensive line coming back. Connor Lew, I think, has a chance to be one of the better centers in the SEC. Dylan Wade was right there next to him last year. Jeremiah Wright next to him last year. So you got the middle three, that continuity returns, and you upgraded at tackle with Xavier Chaplin and Mason Murphy out of USC and Virginia Tech. I'm a little concerned with tight end. I don't think that's a position of strength. Running back won't be as dynamic as Jarquez Hunter last year, but you have 2-3 that can play. They're fine. And then it really comes down to, like you said, Jackson Arnold. I thought Jackson had an issue last year letting go of the football, plain and simple. And I think he needs a reset. I think he needs to be coached. I think he needs to be coached hard. And he's going to have to accept that coaching. And Freeze is going to have to push him. This is not going to be a plug and go, hey, Cam Ward, go down to Miami, learn the new system, and all of a sudden Shannon Dawson gets you going and you're off and running to the races. Like, this is not that. There's a little bit of a rewiring that's going to have to take place with him. And it's interesting. McElroy and I do a radio show every morning with Greg McElroy, played quarterback for Nick Saban in Alabama. And he brought up something I had not thought about. And it was being a quarterback for a defensive-minded head coach. And he said, what a lot of people don't understand is when you have a defensive-minded head coach, a lot of times the message is don't screw up. Don't mess this up. Don't make the big mistake. Protect the football. Field position, time of possession. And he started saying some of these things that Nick Saban had said to him. And I started thinking about Coach Venables, and I don't know if he does it or not, but it feels like it probably works. And then I started thinking about Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian and Hugh Freeze and Lincoln Riley. And I thought to myself, would Jeff Lebby ever say these things? And the answer to myself was absolutely not. I mean, I've heard these offensive coaches. It is attack, 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 go get it, take the chance. Why didn't you take that shot? Let it rip. Let's go out there and have some fun. Let's score some points. If you make a mistake, so what? We'll score 14 more. It's all good. We'll make it happen. So if that mindset can be reversed, I do think it may, I don't know, it may end up being a real positive for him because he's got all the ability. And last year, the offensive line was leaky. You had injuries across the board there. You had injuries at running back. Your top 6 receivers were out at one point. And you had a offensive coordinator. I love Seth Luttrell, but he had never coached quarterbacks. That's a different language those guys speak. And then he's gone I thought maybe they pulled the trigger on Jackson a little early. But I'm not there. I don't see how it's all going. The one thing I'll say about Jackson Arnold, we had him for the Houston game, and then we had him again for the South Carolina game. And those coaches raved about the way that he handled it. Now, I know he ended up leaving anyway, but he didn't walk out the door that week. And he didn't pout. He went to the facility. He helped the other kid, Michael Hawkins. So I think there's a lot in his favor, but a lot's going to have to happen if he is going to be a very good quarterback in the SEC.
Cole, you mentioned some of the names, some of the happenings last year in Norman. You can sense the urgency coming out of that place this offseason. They've made a lot of big headline-grabbing type moves. Do you think it's going to be a dramatic change for them or a noticeable change, a noticeable bump in year 2 in the SEC? Or what concerns do you still have for Brent Venables and the Sooners?
I don't know how it couldn't be better. And very similar to Eric Singleton, John Mateer is another one. Now, there are people that don't know what conference Washington State's in anymore. They don't know. I mean, they play on the CW, I think. So like, it's probably hard to just find them in general. But I've watched the film. This kid's dynamic. I mean, he reminds me of Baker Mayfield, throwing on the run, moving in the pocket, taking chances, like pretty tough, got the arm strength, and can give you a lot with his legs too. Deion Burks is dynamite. Like, he is an explosive play waiting to happen. If he's healthy, the offense is different. You saw in their spring game last year, and he wasn't healthy for the majority of the season, and he will make a big difference if he's available. You get that offensive line right, and you get a guy like Jaden Ott in there that can be an absolute hammer at running back. I loved watching him play at Cal. So I think there's a chance. There's a chance it could come together. You lose a lot on defense. I mean, Billy Bowman, Danny Stutzman, you're not replacing those guys. Like, those are all-timers, mentally, emotionally, leadership, productivity. But the defensive line that they're able to start with, I know there's a lot of teams in college football that would love for that to be their reset starting point, to be able to have the interior and edge guys that they're going to have back. Kip Lewis played a lot of ball. At linebacker, he'll be back. You got a couple safeties that have played a lot. The Bowen brothers are back. So, and with Brent Venables calling the plays again, I think Oklahoma has a chance. If you're asking me the team that has the best chance to make the biggest turnaround in the win-loss column, I will give you Oklahoma.
How deep is the top part of the SEC, and how would you define the top part? Obviously, Georgia and Texas. Alabama last year with a little bit of a step back, of course, compared to what they're used to. How deep is it, and what do you define as the top part?
Protect your online privacy with Nord VPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, Nord VPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
Would you like my media-friendly, politically correct answer, or the
No.
No. Okay, I'll tell you then. Hell if I know.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's so many maybes right now.
Yep.
I feel really good about Texas, but you lost both tackles. You lost an absolute brainiac at center that basically ran the offense. I mean, Sark's sitting there telling me that Jake Majors is changing the responsibilities of the running backs while he's in his stance. Like, that's next level stuff, man. So he's gone. You lost another guard. You lost some receivers and running backs that were really good. You lost a tight end that was just a Swiss Army knife, like glue guy, could do almost everything for you, even though he wasn't, Tony Gonzalez. Gunnar Helms did a lot for them last year. Now, you had the same problem with the interior, the defensive line, but no one thought they could do it last year. And Vernon Broughton and those guys actually had a pretty good year. They'll be the best edge team maybe in college football with Ethan Burke, Colin Simmons coming back, and then Trey Moore on the other. I mean, that's a lot. A great place to start, and maybe the best off-the-ball linebacker in college football as well, and B.J. Hill. So there's a lot of good. There's a lot to be excited about. It is still a first-year starting quarterback. Yes, Mississippi State and the non-cons, whatever, but Arch had a couple bad moments last year where you're kind of like, that's not. It doesn't go there. That's not the way. But he's got all the talent, and I love his demeanor and his makeup. So maybe Texas. Alabama gets quarterback figured out. Ty Simpson's the guy. Like, I think they got some players up front on defense. I think Deontay Lawson's an amazing linebacker, pretty good wide receiver core. Ryan Williams, probably top 5 player in college football. Georgia is going to have talent, but Gunnar Stockton, still his first year going into it. He's a different style quarterback. The offensive line, I think, has a chance to be really good after a bad year last year, mainly due to injuries. But, I mean, could LSU be great? Yeah, they could. Garrett Nussmeier, if he stops throwing the ball to the other team, they could be unbelievable. And if they can find a spot for Harold Perkins to just wreak havoc, they could be a massive problem. And then you look at the teams that have sort of the top end guys, but it doesn't feel like they have the depth or maybe the peripheral pieces like a South Carolina. We would all probably draft Dylan Stewart next after our quarterback if we were starting a college football team. Like, the guy's unbelievable. And Lenore Sellers can take over a game. So there he is. DJ Lagway at Florida is a guy that just raises the level of everybody around him. This Austin Simmons kid at Ole Miss, we saw him a little bit against Georgia. He's got all the talent, like really smooth, big arm. They lose a ton. I don't know what they're going to look like this year outside of having some talent at quarterback and receiver. You almost kind of have to count Tennessee out now. All of a sudden, everybody's excited about Joey Aguilar. Well, I knew Joey Aguilar transferred like 8 months ago, and no one said a word about him. And now everybody's like, oh, you put him in that offense. The hell with that, man. Y'all weren't even talking about this kid for the last 7 months, and now he's like, he might be good. I'm not going to go there. They lost way too much on defense, too, and Dylan Sampson was amazing. So I think A&M could be a scary team, but they need to get their identity figured out, and quarterback needs to be solidified. I mean, there's times where they were ground and pound one half, air raid the next half. It's like you didn't know who you were watching. So, again, I don't know. I don't know how deep the top is going to be. I don't even know how many teams I would put in tier 1 right now. I'd be really confident putting Texas there. But I don't know. Georgia would be a maybe. Bama would be a maybe. LSU would be a probably, but I mean, they got problems on defense. And they had 2 tackles and a guard get drafted. By the way, one tackle got drafted 4th. So that's a lot to just say, yeah, you're automatically back there in tier 1 going into this season.
Cole, when it comes to Arch, I mean, the hype is insane already. It's almost like a phenomena. And I try to think of guys in the past, like maybe a Tebow, Johnny Football there for a while. They're just like, they kind of took over the talk of college football. He's obviously got that potential, but do you have anything to kind of compare it to? And just what's the talk been like in SEC country and nationally as well? Because you do all over, but do you have anything comparable to it?
I mean, you think about like Ron Paulus with Bino Cook saying he was going to win, 3 Heismans?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot there. Todd Maranovich had a lot of that coming out of high school, kind of mainly because of his dad and stuff. But with the family name, and I mean, let's be real, that's the first family of college football. Mm-hmm. Eli did great things at Ole Miss that hadn't been done in a long time. Peyton won an SEC championship at Tennessee, and we know what Archie did when he was at Ole Miss. He was unbelievable. So I don't think you're going to have another comp outside of like the Matthews family, and they're playing offensive line. So they ain't getting that kind of hype. And defensive ends, nobody's talking about them that way, but they're maybe the only family that can even really compare just with overall greatness. So here's the thing that I like about him. Is he going to live up to the hype? It's hard to say, because I think some of us understand that it is control, and we don't expect him to go out there and go 50 for 50 every week. But the thing that gives me a lot of confidence with him is him being around him. He understands it. He gets it. Number one, he knows playing quarterback at Texas is a big deal. And then I think too, like his family has kept him grounded. His grandfather calls him all the time. He talks to his uncles on a regular basis. His dad is just, if you've been around Cooper, you get it. Like his dad is just so laid back. He's a regular person, Matthew McConaughey. Like he's just kind of like walking around. Yeah, man, like it's all good. So I just think they understand what it all is. And when you can do that, you allow yourself to not get caught up in a lot of the other stuff. And I would be shocked if I heard things about him in the locker room, if I heard things about him around town, if I heard that he had a bad attitude, if I heard that he was pouting, because I think because of how they've handled all of it, they have not allowed him to become a victim of all of that. or even be involved in most of that. So that's why I think he has a chance to be the guy that a lot of people think he can be, because he's not going to be chasing NIL deals. He's not going to be partying his rear end off. Like he's got 3 really to talk about that have lived this life, this exact life. I mean, Tennessee was a massive deal when Peyton was there, a massive deal. People kind of forget that the SEC wasn't anywhere close to where it is now. Trust me, he beat us in the SEC championship game, but Tennessee got him back. So that was huge. And like game day didn't talk about a lot of schools not named Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida back then, but Peyton kind of got him back to that. And so they can tell him like, hey man, don't do this. Or I would have handled that way. Or maybe think about doing this. And that's just such a massive resource for a kid to be able to lean on and have, that I think it will go a long way with him being able to just be the football player that we think he can be.
You mentioned, A&M finding their identity, and in year one of Mike Elko, they were in the fourth quarter, a chance to take the lead against Texas with some better offensive play calling and execution from being in the SEC title game. That's how muddled that the SEC had gotten. Do you think that they are any closer to that, or was that maybe just did they fall into a good schedule flow so that they were in that position when they finally did play Texas at the end of the year?
Yeah, you could say schedule flow, but they still opened up with a playoff team, and a team that won a playoff game. So all these coaches that take over will tell you one of the more difficult things that they have to do with the rebuild is teach teams how to win instead of how to not lose. And that's mentality, that's makeup, that's behavior, that's belief, that's culture. Like all of that goes into that. And that's why I think you see some teams year one at times look great, and then kind of the wheels seem to fall off, is because people are looking over their shoulder, or people don't have the trust, or don't trust the system, or just don't believe that it's all going to go well. I mean, I can remember, the year we went 3-8 at Auburn, like we were in a lot of games, and then all of a sudden it just like vanished. And one thing leads to a tidal wave of everything else happening. And that's just not having the leadership of somebody to step up, or the overall belief that you're just going to find a way to get it done. Winning games is hard. And especially with today's college football, very few teams are going out there and out-talenting everybody. And just like, we don't see these tidal waves of physicality like Bama and Georgia were for a couple of years, that there's just no answer for any, like, you can't, like, we're going to move you, and then you can't cover Amari Cooper or Julio Jones. Like, we don't have a lot of those right now. That's why it's so hard for us to talk about who's at the top, who's going to be in the playoff, who's going to win 10, who's going to win 3, because there's so much change. Like my recent podcast that I did was the best 5 offensive lines in the SEC. And the reason that's such a hard discussion right now is that position is built on continuity and chemistry and understanding and know-how, and not knowing on 28 which direction you go, but knowing, is that guard going to leave me early? Like, is that his tendency? Or is he going to stick on that double team for a while and I have a little extra time to operate? Does this guard get beat inside in pass pro, and that 3 techniques wide, I better keep my eyes over there because I know he's going to struggle with that guy, because he's a quick guy that's going to make an inside move. Those things only come with reps and being next to somebody and doing it at full speed. 1, we don't get a lot of full speed reps anymore. 2, there's not a lot of these guys that have played football next to each other at any position, much less offensive line. So you just got to do it with the guys next to you a lot. And there's just not a lot of it. So I believe in Elko. I think he's a badass. I think when you juggle quarterbacks, I don't care who your coach is, you're probably going to hit some serious bumps in the road. And you go from one guy to the next guy, and then all of a sudden things just don't look right. They had some injuries on the offensive line they had to deal with. So I think the defensive line is still going to be pretty good. The O-line is going to be really good. They have great backs. They got to figure out quarterback and identity. And I think that's the other thing too. Like, and I'm not pointing fingers at Colin Klein, but sometimes either first-time play caller or first-time play calling somewhere new, guys try to prove themselves instead of just sticking to the plan. Like I say all the time, all these coaches that are going to take new jobs, I always ask them when they say, you think I should do this, do that? I'll say, well, who's your FU coach going to be? And they all what are you talking about? Like, who's the guy that can look at you and say, hey man, F you, don't do that. We can't do that anymore. Or don't say that to the media anymore. Stop treating this kid that way. Like, start doing this over here with this guy. Because all these coaches have all these yes men around them, and all they want to hear is how great they are and how great things are going, instead of somebody who steps in and says, hey guys, we got to cut this out now or it's going to cost us a game. So I think you had a little bit of, hey, we can throw the ball, or we can run the ball, or we can be physical, or sometimes guys just want to look at LSU last year as a perfect example. They refused to run the ball for a lot of the year. Like, there was a blatant refusal to hand the football off. It just didn't happen. And a lot of offenses are options and this and that and yes, whatever. But it's like Sark told me, he's like, Cole, sometimes you gotta call it and run it, man. Like, we're running 32 right now. Like, we're running off the right guard in the B gap. Take the ball, hand it off, shut up, and block somebody. Like, that's it. I don't care the defense, the options, the pre-snap reads, the motions. Like, sometimes you just got to hand the ball off. Or if the calls for a point in the game, sometimes you got to throw the ball deep. So I think a lot of that is lost with first-year guys, first-year coordinators, staffs coming together, because there are just so many things happening, and you're trying to make everything right. And every coach thinks they can make it right. That's why we see these quarterbacks like, why would they take him? They can't. What are they going to do with this guy? They all think they can fix him. Mm-hmm. They all think their stuff works, or else they wouldn't be where they are. They have to think that. So we'll see a lot year two. I think Colin Kahn's great, but he needs to be him, and they need to be them. And if they do that, I think they have a chance to have a pretty good year.
Cole, my last question is, with the playoff expanded last year and again this year, then even more so, we saw a couple of teams get in, like SMU and Indiana, Arizona State, that got in. Whether anyone had thought they had a chance to win or not, and Arizona State took Texas to the wire. Do you see a non-blue blood, so to speak, logo team that can win a national championship in the way it is now? Because now you got to win even 2 or 3 or 4 more games than you did before.
No, not even close. I mean, I see guys, I'm not going to call out names because I just don't want to do that. I try to go watch, specifically the SEC. I try to go watch all these guys that are transferring in. I go watch a tight end. I go watch a running back. I go watch a linebacker. And there's a lot of them that I specifically say to myself, how? Why? What's he going to do? He's not as good as the ones that they've had or the ones they have on the roster. They just need depth, and they need people to take reps. Then on the flip side of that, there's certain teams that have 5, 8, 9 guys going to Power 5 schools that are playing in the Sun Belt or the WAC. And you're like, well, hold on a sec. They won 4 games. How is their running back, quarterback, tackle, linebacker, and safety all going to the SEC and the ACC? And they won 4 games last year. So those teams that have talent that still can't survive their own schedules, to be able to do what you just said, go win a conference championship game, get to the playoff, win 3 games there, I don't see any way. Because you're also going to get teams do what Ohio State did last year, and they are going to figure out how to turn that switch on. Because the Ohio State is such an interesting case study, and their fans don't like to hear it, so they'll get mad at this. But they should actually go watch it themselves. That offensive line did not play like that all year, and that defensive line damn sure didn't play like that all year. I watched them. They are one of the non-SEC teams that I watch every week. Now, also, I love Quinshon Judkins. I love Seth McLaughlin. So, I wanted to go watch the guys that I know that I like too. They weren't that. They were not. But something happened after the Michigan game, and the light went on, and they got it. The engine went on, and they revved it up to full speed, and it worked. So you're going to get teams that we're going to look at. That's the other part is, these people in my neck of the woods. Oh, Bama struggled. Bama was rough. Y'all know how many games Bama won last year?
A bunch. Yeah, it was quite a few games.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even
How many games do you think Georgia won last year?
10, right?
10.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But people here talk about those teams like they're on totally different ends of college football right now. There's a 1-game difference. Mm. So we haven't retrained our brains to 8 or 9 wins can still be really good in today's college football. We're not getting an undefeated team. That ain't happening. Not unless, Bezos steps up and says, I want Baylor to win it all. And I'm dying next year. So here's all my money. Go get every player you can get, all of them, and keep them and make sure, like, pay them more than the first round money they're going to get. And let's go win a championship. Until you get that, you're not going undefeated. You're not going to have the Miami teams of 2001 or of the late 80s. You're not going to have the Alabamas of the mid 2000s. Like, it's not happening again. You cannot keep it together like that anymore. So to think that a smaller school with lesser athletes, lesser depth, smaller altogether could go do that, I hate saying this. Trust me, because I am for the little guy. I think there's enough to go around. There should be, like Mark Richt said it best when he was at Georgia, there's enough to go around for everybody. We just have to try to make ourselves help the other guys. And we're getting further and further away from helping. Like, these pay games are going away. Like it or not, they're going away. And it's like I did Sanford football games after COVID here in Birmingham. And it was fun. It was cool. It was great. Like, the offenses were so unique. And offensive coordinator at Army right now was coaching Mercer. And I'm like, this Mercer offense is badass. And I said, they should play their games in the spring. And I talked to Martin Newton about it, the athletic director. And he said, if we had our games in the spring, our attendance would go up 20% and we would cover all of our bills. But my fans are choosing to go to Alabama, Auburn, UAB games, other Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Like, they're all drivable. Tennessee, Georgia. And so the FCS fans thought I was crazy. And they said, well, we've got to have our pay games. Well, guess what? Those are going away. Because as these conferences grow, they're going to have to pay more conference games. The only way to get the revenue money up is going to be to play more conference games. So what does that mean? You're not playing Texas A&M Commerce anymore. You're not playing Citadel anymore. You're not playing Sanford anymore. So when those go away, then what are you going to do? So I hate it for the little guy. I do. But we've gotten so far down the road, and they're just hanging on by this thread because they want that little bitty shred of revenue share that's going to be gone soon anyway. The Big Ten and the SEC are going to say, no, why are we look at it as $1 billion. And that's a massive number. And I'm just using rough numbers. Well, and we might say, well, they're only getting 6%. Well, 6% of $2 billion is a lot. And these leagues are going to start looking at that and saying, why are we giving them that? Because they don't show up in our playoff and they are not going to win a national championship. It's the same thing with basketball right now. Like, wanting to get 17 and 17 conference teams in the basketball tournament, in my opinion, is egregious. It's dumb. But they know more eyeballs will show up for that. Mm-hmm. I actually disagree with that. Maybe in the first round, but not if those teams went into the fourth round. Like, we want to go watch Davidson in the fourth round. Like, we want to go watch Albany in the third round if they find a way to make it. Not 16 and 16 Texas A&M. Nothing against them. Like, they just hired a great basketball coach, by the way. But we're doing everything we can to get further away from that, and I hate it. But to your point, to your question, I honestly have to say no. I don't think that one of those teams could do it.
Cole, appreciate it. Great podcast with McElroy, but also love the segment. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it when you respond. And then if you can't, because I know you're busy as hell, but we love having you on. Thank you so much.
Hey, I love coming on. Appreciate you guys having me.
Cole Cubelic again. The SEC Network and college football has the great podcast and also has his own